Your hands are warm.
So when you have a chance.
Okay, thank you. So I see Bob on. Hey, Robert. Okay, if we do a roll call, Judy.
Yes. Judy Neville, Tom Schulte.
Here.
Andy Carroll. Here. Todd Lavieri.
Here.
Michael Chin.
Here.
Chris Labrie.
Here.
Victor Alvarez.
Here.
Maria Weingart.
Here.
Bob Hamill is on.
Here.
Zoom.
Bob's here.
Thank you. Colin is on Zoom, right? Yeah.
Hello.
James Yo is not here, I guess. Absent. Okay. All right.
good.
All attended. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, P&Z is on the other end of the hall. Yep. We could probably put a sign out there, but that seems too easy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see. A motion to approve the minutes.
Actually, I have a change to the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
On the public comments, there was so the sentence that says he proposed the town consider adding 1 million of conveyance fees to the land acquisition fund and then share anything above 1 million in some fashion. It's what he proposed was that the first million should go to the town, and then any incremental money in conveyance fees should be 60% town, 40% land acquisition fund.
Give that to me again. I don't remember. I can go back and re-listen again. What was it?
Oh, it's the first million
Yeah.
of conveyance fees goes to the town. Was his proposal. And then every dollar after that, 60 cents goes to the town, 40 cents goes to the land acquisition fund.
It was the 60-40 split is what you mean by share. What he meant by share.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So.
I think that's right.
60-40,
Yeah.
Can we get that 100%? I mean, we could vote on that, but let's just confirm it. But I think Victor's correct. That's right. Okay.
And the other question that I had about the minutes is down on the financial update. The last line, and the mill rate is expected to decrease from 18.94 to possibly 13. I don't recall the 13.
Yeah, I was that me? If I said it, I would have. Oh no, Josh said it. You said, Josh, what were you thinking? No, I think I said it would reduce to something in the 13s from the adjustment based on the grand list going to 10 billion.
Yeah.
What did you say is expected to decrease? But instead of it's rather than.
Well, I don't mind correcting it to say what I said, but I think I said 13. I said something in the 13s.
Yeah, but you have to have the context of the grand list, and that's not even in this sentence.
Well, that's true. That's true.
What did you say, Chris?
Yeah.
So the purpose of this was that if you recall, the first selectman suggested or said that the grand list is going to go from 8, 1 or 2 to 10 to 10 to 10.
Yeah.
Just over 10.
Okay, to 10 billion. And the point being, all things equal, that would drop the mill rate to something in the 13s. That's what was intended to be said.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or less than 14.
Yeah, fine. Less than 14. Something like that's fine.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know that that's right. Josh, you're shaking your head, although I'm making you.
Is that not?
That may be what you said.
Okay. Well, I just said that's what I said.
Well, no, I'm getting that from Sebi. Sebi said we'll be back in the 13s, where we were a decade ago.
Yeah. So be happy to go watch the tape, but the intention was something below 14 based on the grand list growing from 8 billion to 10 billion.
To less than 14. Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay.
That works. Thanks. All right, good. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Motion to approve
So moved.
with those changes. So moved. Second.
Second.
Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, right?
He was
Opposed? None? Okay. So moved. First selectman.
So I decided instead of giving an update, since things are in motion, the playoffs is in motion, the Waveney bathrooms are done, but we're not going to open them until we have an elevator because really no need for them. But so things are in motion. Tiger can always give you more details, but I just want to take the opportunity. This is my last meeting as ex officio to say thank you. I mean, this has been some of you I've been with for 6 years, and this has been an amazing board under the leadership of Todd, who's been a fabulous partner and chairman of this committee board. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, Michael, all along the way with the budget planning. Chris is over here.
Yep.
Chris, and we've had some real teamwork in terms of jointly working on plans and all the work you do for the committees that you do, the WPCA, which unfortunately we learn resides with you rather than the selectmen under our charter, but gave you a little extra experience in the world of sewer. But anyway, I really appreciated everything you've done for us, and thank you for your service. And I just want to express that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for your service. Your job is 24/7. We're hardly anything like that, but thank you for your service with all that you've done in this town, both on the expense side, which we looked at and saw we underspent our budgets by $9 million over the last 6 years. And the revenues came in 15 million over. So that's a net 24 million to the good that went to the taxpayers. And a lot of the savings side was on you for all the work that you did with the town and all the various initiatives that you had. And so between the legal background and finance background and pulling things together, yeah, thank you. I know it's 24/7 and it's Saturdays, it's Sundays, it's holidays. Those things, your vacations are magnets for an issue. So there's always something going on. So anyway, thank you for everything you did, including this working with us. I think it was extremely seamless, and frankly, between us and the Board of Ed and the town council, it was a very good working relationship all around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a question to Todd. Would it be appropriate to vote for the board to vote a motion of thanks to Kevin?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah.
So moved.
So moved. All right. We have a second.
Second.
Roll call.
I think everyone seconded. That's what I saw.
It's a first.
All in favor. It's a first. All in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Chris.
Thank you.
Opposed? You can't oppose. You can't oppose.
I could break a tie.
Take a tie. Oh, thank you. It's a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. And I think as people know, Amy has obviously moving on to a new role.
There you go. But I'm here today.
Very-
We're not official till next week.
I know. But this is your last official Board of
It
Finance
is.
meeting.
It is.
Can't say enough thanks to you. You're a great member. You are thoughtful. You are prepared. You push an issue to the point of making sure we get it right. You see clarity, which is a gift. That's a good thing. You really see clarity, and that's not always, what people try to do. And I think you did that really, really well to truly understand as we went through our dialogue and through our thoughts and so forth. So just a big thank you to you. This is a volunteer, by the way, who raises her hand, and when you give her something to do, it gets done. It gets done. There's no follow-up. There's no, the dog ate my homework. No, it's done. And I truly appreciate that. And you'll be a very big shoes to fill. So,
Well, my goal
Thank you.
for all of you, if I have any influence at all, you will never get a project brought before you without the details.
we wouldn't expect anything.
It's my goal,
That's
unless
great.
it's conceptual, and that's different. But if, my goal is to be like, wait, how much does this really cost? And what are the numbers? So that you can look at that and not be sitting here going, huh?
Yeah.
So that's
No,
my goal.
Appreciate that.
Perfect.
And on the WPCA, it's so funny because when we all take this job and we know that's part of our role, it's 9 minutes a year, 12 minutes if we actually think we want to change the rate. We might have spent some months more time on the WPCA than the Board of Finance.
Right.
And so I appreciate everybody's contributions as we continue to work on all the things that are important to this town. So, okay, thank you. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay, so the next item, so I think Chris and where are we on this? We've got a update on the library loan documents, but I don't know that they're ready for us to work on, if I understand where we are. Maybe Chris or Tom, you want to give us a status or?
Yeah, there are, the first comment is that the documents are not in final form. And they have some glaring mistakes in them. And so that we can't approve them as they're written. And the other thing is that there has been we're trying to get a method of perfecting our security interest in the endowment that the library has pledged to secure the loan. And we think we have a way to do it. but it needs to be documented properly. And basically, the Vanguard, which is the custodian of their funds, does not want to enter into a tripartite agreement. So Tom came up with the idea of changing the titling of the account, which should work, but that will take a while to do. So the problem is, but the library does need this money probably in middle of December at the latest. So we really must move this to completion in our December meeting. And that's where we stand.
Special appropriation, town council has to approve it tomorrow night, and then it has to be
We're gonna have to table it.
It's,
We're gonna have to table it.
but why would you, we agreed last month.
You have to advertise.
Yeah, but not only that, but we agreed last month that we would increase the amount.
Yeah.
of the document. Why is
I
it
don't-
now an
Well,
appropriation?
what's wrong with the document is that the promissory note contemplates an amortizing term loan. The library cannot agree to an amortizing term loan. They don't have the cash flow predictability. They don't know when the donor's money is going to come in, and if they're tied to an amortization schedule, which is fixed, we put them in the proximate risk of default. And you don't want to have a loan that starts off with the prospect of it being in default in 18 months. So it's just that has to be changed. And there's a couple of other cleanup items that need to go through the document. So
I mean, as far as we know, there's an agreement in principle on how to move forward. The documents just haven't caught up yet. That's just really what the issue is. There was also the curveball that Vanguard, for a variety of reasons that we can't really understand, were not willing to do what typically custodians would do.
They don't, as a matter of policy, they don't do it with anybody.
Yeah,
That's the
so they
problem.
won't do that. And you do find that in occasion, but there is another way to skin that cat that needs to be sorted and dropped into the agreement. Plus, as Chris mentions, that the note didn't catch up. You know, you can't have fixed amortization because they just don't. You're asking for them to be in default. So it'll be a bullet note and they'll have the right to prepay when they have the cash, or, you know, fund a sinking fund. So in any event, so the paperwork will catch up with itself and we can vote in December. If that creates, you know, a process problem, we'll just have to work on through special appropriation or something.
So we need 2 consecutive weeks to advertise for the town council, and they meet on December. Yeah, well, no, I'm just wondering, we might have to have a special meeting.
Yeah, special meeting.
The Board of Finance.
Could be, could be.
I mean, what you could do, I suppose, is a special appropriation of the $635,000 that we know they have to pay to the contractor under the GMP sometime in December, and maybe just approve that with the understanding that once the line of credit is approved, this gets rolled into it. How would that work?
That sounds better to me.
Well,
I mean,
isn't
it
that,
works.
I thought the idea was,
You still need an undertaking by the library to pay us back.
yeah, look, the documents are close enough that what I would suggest is you build something in that says, we're going to close on the prior arrangement, but until the retitling of the endowment accounts can occur, which would perfect our lien, it would only be able to draw the amounts to pay the unpaid third-party contractors, right? So that they stay current on that. Then, you know, we work to retitle the accounts, the lien's perfected. At that point, the restriction comes off. Then they can borrow the remainder of what we have referred to as phase 1 of the legacy building project. But that way, you know, the documents are done. We get that done by calendar year end. We get the, what is it, 600,000 and change out to the third-party contractor that needs it. Give time to coordinate with Vanguard the paperwork to get the name of the account retitled. And then we move on the way it was always thought we would do it.
That would be okay if the note was correct.
Well, I mean, you got to fix the note too, but I'm just saying you would have to drop in the restrictions on the borrowing into the loan agreement as well. And that's one of the reasons why this document just hasn't caught up with the discussions we've been having since we discovered that Vanguard was not willing to enter into.
Right.
So we'll fix the note too, which is
Right. And then there's, as I said, there's a few other errors in there. For instance, the loan agreement continues to refer to Bankwell. They're not a party to this.
Right.
You know, there's just cleanup to be done.
Right.
So it sounds like documents aren't ready for us to approve.
Right.
Where there are some changes to the agreement, the terms aren't quite agreed.
Right.
Right. So we just need to table both the approval of the document and the approval of the special appropriation to loan the 2 million. We just got to move those to next month, Tucker.
Well, or a special meeting.
Or a special meeting. I'm fine. I mean, it all depends on the timing and cadence of the deal of the documents. So
Next week being Thanksgiving, we could schedule a special meeting for last week in November. That would still give us 2 weeks to advertise. So I think 27th meeting.
what? I don't think you want to box us into another date unless we know the docs are going to be ready.
That's 2 weeks from now. So
Well, 2 weeks from now with Thanksgiving right in the middle, and you know, you've got to, you know, you've got to see whether or not the law firms can respond, you know.
How hard, I don't mean to be, how hard is this to get done?
It shouldn't be hard.
Right.
If the attorneys will, you know,
Prioritize it.
prioritize it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, we're in agreement in principle. We have to
Correct.
deal with some logistics. It seems like even with Thanksgiving, was it a half a day's work? I mean, it's, you know, we're just getting to do the work.
When do you want to notice it, Tucker? Tomorrow? For 2 weeks?
so I'm looking at the calendar. If we got it done that last week, like by the 29th, that would give us the 2 weeks for the town council meeting on the 13th. So that gives us a full 14 days between now and the 29th. Calendar days.
So you want to schedule a meeting for the week of the 29th? Yeah.
For
Okay.
the 29th, actually.
Yeah.
And
I
then
could do
that would give me enough time to get it in for 2 consecutive.
Oh, we have to,
I only, you know,
Well, that could be a Zoom. If that's all the meeting is, it could be
yeah.
Pardon me?
We should be able to.
it could be a Zoom call. Well, I don't have a problem with that if that's the approach. But for today, we have to table it for today. So
Attorney and say, now you make these changes.
yeah.
both items 4 and 5, we're just going to table until
Yeah.
likely a schedule of a special meeting the week of the 29th. And I guess we'll lean on you. No?
Well, what we would like to do in order to expedite this is be able to discuss this directly with the attorneys.
With all the parties. With the library.
Oh, library.
No,
attorney. And us.
but to make sure the attorney, make sure the attorneys get it right this time.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
And I think that's just, you know, wordsmithing.
Okay.
Be a couple.
And we could do this by Zoom, right?
I think so.
I don't know, a special appropriation, can you,
Sure.
can we?
Well, we
Doesn't
did it for 2 years.
Well, I bet that, yeah, that you're.
Did more than
that was
special.
Different,
We're in the budget.
yeah.
Well, 1 year, really.
Chris, is there any way to do this without calling it a special appropriation? Because that then is subject to all sorts of,
That I don't know. I mean.
It's a loan.
but call it a loan then. Why are we calling it a special? Because that's the taxpayer's liability as a special appropriation.
Well, does the loan have to be approved and noticed?
Right?
Does the loan have to be approved and noticed?
The funding of the loan has to have appropriated dollars.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah,
else we
the
do that.
appropriation
Seem
for
like
this. So,
But there's
you
a
know, you need to
difference.
do a new appropriation here because what you're doing is you're reducing the existing line of credit from 10 to 6. And then you're creating a new one with different parameters and different collateral, which is why it has to be new, different source of repayment. And then, so that's a brand new loan in effect. So whatever you need to do in terms of public notice and approval, as if it's a brand new appropriation, then that's what we have to do.
There's a little wiggle room in the calendar also because we can do a Stanford advocate on a Friday and a Monday. You can advertise Thursday, you can advertise on Monday, Stanford advocate if we have to, so. But I feel better if we just held the 29th.
Fine,
All right.
fine. We can schedule for a meeting and but people can dial in via Zoom. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that all right?
That's fine.
That works for you
Sounds
both?
fine. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
we'll make sure.
We got to be ready.
Promised this before. We'll try to make sure it
Okay.
gets there.
Okay. Okay. With that, then we'll move on. We've got some additional fund requests. Who's here for that, Tiger? Hi, Tiger.
Good evening. saw you in the audience. And then I saw you leave and I was like, ooh. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. So we're here in circumstance where we never like to be. I don't think I've been here asking for money in quite some time. We had the unfortunate situation where last year we had several items, two items that one, a Freightliner truck. We had $200,000 in the budget. It came in at 218. You had said to us to see if we could run our budget out to the end of the year. And we did that. Same thing with a fuel dispensing system. Our fuel dispensing system was going to be in our capital for the following year. It wound up going down early. So we actually had to have it, order it and have it, to get it back up and running. So we encumbered monies in our fiscal 23 budget for that. Unfortunately, the truck didn't come in, and nor did the pumps for the fuel system before the close of the year. So while we had those encumbered in our operating side, the POs had to close. The operating closed on June 30 without the purchase. And we lost those monies, unfortunately. So it was around $40,000, $41,000 of monies that we lost in order to then affect the purchase of the Freightliner and the fuel dispensing system. The dispensing system is in now, so we have to pay that bill. Got to pay it out of the current year. And the Freightliner is coming very shortly. Going to have to pay that bill. Going to have to pay that out of current. We're going to be now in the exact same situation where we're $41,000 light. On top of that, the fuel system that we had, the Gas Boy system, the software, again, without notice, they stopped servicing the software and said, we're getting rid of that software system. We're instituting a new software system. And guess what? It's $3,000 to buy it and $4,000 a year to run it, whereby we had never had to pay for the system to run. We had never had to use that. We had bought the system 20 years ago, used the system for 20 years very well, but never had to pay an operating system or an operating cost year over year. So that that cost as well has hit our budget. So we were looking at somewhere in the order of $50,000 hitting our operating budget that we weren't necessarily aware of. So we wanted to bring it to your attention, hope that you could make us whole, that we were a little reluctant to run again, the exact same situation, and then come at the end of the year, and then with everyone else coming at the end of the year if their budget's light, so to speak. But that's where we are.
So are you asking for a special appropriation, or are you asking for a transfer? How do you want to finance this?
So what I was hoping to do was, if you remember last year, we have we talked about some money that we had in the special projects fund that we were going to keep for utilities in case the utilities went over last year. We didn't have to use those funds. So I'd like to be able to use those funds to cover what Tiger needs and also what IT is going to present as well.
How much do we have in those funds?
300 for that particular, $302,000.
Okay.
It's built over a couple of years. So we haven't touched it. So that would, because this would put a lot of pressure on our contingency, and we know we have the SROs coming up.
Yeah.
So want to make sure
it's a good idea.
So
sure.
Want the approval to be able to transfer and use those funds.
It's a good idea.
To cover these expenditures.
Any discussion? Any questions?
No, just so with all the delayed deliveries and straddling the fiscal year and unexpected costs, and we don't support that software anymore, you're really only going up to this 15,000 incremental, right? Because the other 41 returned to us.
Really 7.
Yes.
Or 7. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So 7. Okay.
Yeah. Really. Because the 41 was brought back to
right.
But the special reserve that you're going to draw that down to the 56.
Well, in total, be close to 200,000. Yep.
Oh, I see. With all the others.
Both. Yeah. I would like to do for both of these so we don't touch that.
Okay. It's about 49 plus the 150.
Right. Okay.
If approved.
Need a separate vote in, or?
That's good.
Well, any other questions before we take a vote? I don't know, a Colm or Bob, you guys are online. Any?
No, it makes sense to me.
Chris is going to explain IT as well. He's on. Yeah.
I just want to know if there's anything for Tiger before we go. We'll jump to you, Chris, in 1 sec. Anything else for Tiger on this one? Seems pretty straightforward. Okay. So give us 1 sec. You want to talk about Chris? Chris, you want to walk us through the Dell rail system?
Sure, absolutely. So we're end of life on our Dell system. It's a hyperconvergence, and it runs the entire town's desktops and servers. We ran it out 8 years. they expect 5 to 7. It's the software's end of life, the switch gear's end of life, the hardware is. They proposed some system that would do same system. And then we had to revisit this about a month and a half ago because we budgeted for it, but because of all the new software that we're putting in place, all the Zoom, all the video convergence, we now have to buy more hardware to support all the video, especially for our cyber security training. People can't take it to their desks. They can't, if we have more than 15, 20 users trying to say, watch the Board of Selectmen in the morning, or get together and do Zoom calls for whatever training they're doing. And can attest to what it's doing now with all the new Microsoft software. It's dragging the system down so much that we don't want to wait 9 months to have to replace all this, and because that'll be next year's budget. We're only short 150,000. They're on board. They're ready to. If we can pull this off, they'll get the equipment here. We should have it installed before February.
Okay.
And they're doing all the migration, and it's a 5-year plan, which is 5-year full coverage, which is great. They quoted us 3 years, but it's going to be they added the 2 years for life expectancy, and that's part of the deal.
So if you were to start in November, call it December, early December, if
Yep.
we approve this, you'll be live with all that by the end of February or February sometime?
Yep. That's what we're trying to do. They're going to do all the migration. And it's because it's the system we're so familiar with, it should be an easy rollover. So it's a drop in, migrate, nothing gets turned off. No one loses any time. And again, this does everything throughout the town, especially, and also remote access.
And
So
it wasn't in the budget, or it was under budgeted, or which?
it was under budgeted.
Okay.
We didn't realize how much the graphical aspect of the hardware was going to cost, and all the licensing that goes with it now. So every time we put in what they call it a GPU, the licensing goes up depending on how many you need. And now they come out and say, okay, each user is going to need at least 4 GPUs, which becomes a licensing expense. But that, again, it's covered for 5 years. So we will have no more expenses after this for this project.
So Chris, what's the all-in cost? I mean,
Yep. I think it's 380.
Yeah.
So what did we have in? We had in 172, 130. Okay. And so
the option would be to wait until the next year's budget. So we're basically just jumping this 5 months.
Yeah, I can
6
tell
months.
that it does slow a lot.
Yeah, no, there's an options to do nothing and
Yeah.
and wait 6 months, and we have it in this year's budget, but we've already budgeted for some of it, which is basically dead money if you can't do all of it. Another way to look at it.
I'll have to carry it till next, right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
How much
Thoughts?
did we budget?
137.
And the total is 372?
372. Had about what did we have? 230 when we went through
And
there?
230.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so where would be the source of funds for
Same thing.
this?
The differential
Same-
would be that
the
300,000.
same. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Same
So it doesn't
reserve.
affect our
That works.
contingencies.
That works.
And so do we happen to know, I mean, I guess I understand that, you know, it's kind of end of life, et cetera, and so forth. We're kind of between the rock and hard place and all. And so, you know, for this incremental 150 on top of it, we're going to have a system, we'll have all the hardware and software to run this. But is there a knock-on cost for, oh, now all the devices need to be compliant or need to be of a certain level?
No, great question, because there is licensing for all that, but we covered all the licensing last year.
Right.
And once you buy the license, once it goes with the new system, so we can actually migrate that over. And there'll be a cost in the next 2 years, but you'll see that in our regular budget, just for the display change outs. That's it. Everything else stays the same.
Okay.
So the total cost of this is 373. We had voted before 230.
The budget, we planned on using around 230. It was like 225, but the 150 is to cover any other costs we have coming in that may be.
That's you're rounding it up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And this we're going to roll in with Tiger's proposal to
Yeah, for the
use
coverage of it.
the contingents.
Not contingent.
Not contingency. It was,
Special project.
it was
Special
money that was
project
put
rollover.
aside for special projects. There's 302. You said this is about 199
Between with the
between the two, between the two,
Yeah.
between the two.
Okay. I
Other
got it.
question? You got it? Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, so you were looking for a motion really to approve that these get funded through that means?
Yes. please.
Okay. So it's really, it is a transfer, technically, right?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
okay.
right.
That's okay.
We should.
So is it, if I got this right, it's an approval to approve, the motion to approve a transfer of, I'm gonna say $200,000 for these 4 items, right? Correct?
Yes.
And it's from this fund utility fund.
Reserve. or
Reserve
whatever.
fund. Okay. All right, that's the motion. Anyone?
I'd move.
Amy,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Judy,
Yeah.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
None? Okay, thanks, Bob. Gotcha. Okay,
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
you,
you guys
you're
very
welcome.
much.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Makola Patel, where's Leo? There he is. Want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about?
I have a slide present. I'm joining right now. I have a slide presentation. Introduce me.
And just make sure you're right up to the mic so that people can hear you.
Screen.
No, looks good.
Okay. So I'm Leo Makola Patel, a junior at New Canaan High, and I'm here to discuss why the town needs to better maintain all our public cemeteries. So the current problem is most of these cemeteries have turned into jungles with massive overgrowth, fallen trees, and broken gravestones. And all of this disrespects the founders of our town and the veterans who have died and been buried in these graveyards. It also in general reflects badly on our town as a whole, having unmaintained important historical locations. And as shown by this photo and many photos you're going to see, there's an obvious lack of funding on this project for adequate maintenance. Many towns around us, such as Darien, have a specific budget line for cemetery maintenance, which is not an annual occurrence in our budget. Okay, so the scope of the problem, there are 7 public cemeteries, as you can see on the map. While cemeteries with recent burials have more, are slightly better maintained, the ones with older burials are all but forgotten. And the current budget is insufficient for the appropriate maintenance. And the volunteer approach, which is currently going on, is in general unsustainable because to maintain 7 public cemeteries, it's impossible for ad hoc volunteer initiatives. For example, a woman by the name of Kristen Pace made it her 2020 COVID project to maintain the Canoe Hill Cemetery, which is the one on the photos. She got it perfectly clean, but then after she moved to London, they kind of fell into a disrepair. I personally joined a volunteer initiative in 2021. And by that time, the grasses in the summer of 2021, about a year after she stopped maintaining them, by that time, the grasses were growing above my head. And as a student, trying to maintain cemeteries while being a junior in high school is essentially impossible. And this picture is what it looked like this summer, 2 years after I did my maintenance, and it's all but forgotten because there's been almost no maintenance to it. This is why we need a municipal solution, because It's something that should be the liability, or not the liability, something that should be the responsibility of the town, no more than having the grass cut outside of town hall. So, what I believe needs to be done is we need an annual budget line specifically for cemetery maintenance. I need to include appropriate funding for maintenance and restoration of all 7 public cemeteries. And this picture that is not loading in, shows what an appropriately maintained cemetery looks like. All of this can be done at a de minimis cost with an incredible benefit to the town.
Good thing we just invested in
I was seeing the same thing.
So there's broad support for this restoration and maintenance. There was a petition created for this project, which has over 450 signatures. Or people like the Daughters of the American Revolution, Mr. Chris Shipper, the head of the Conservation Commission, and retired police chief Leon Krolikowski have also pledged their support for this project. In addition, all the volunteers and organizations who have pledged their time and money into maintaining all these cemeteries. The benefits are, there's the moral imperative of it's obviously just the right thing to do. It improves and beautifies neighborhoods, and it creates green space, which is always beneficial to the town in general. And it also makes cemeteries more accessible as places of contemplation. Okay, that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Neil, could you just introduce yourself and explain how
Yeah.
met Tiger and I?
Yeah, so I've written 2 articles so far in the New Canaanite about this. And then after that, I reached out and met with Tiger and Ms. Murphy about maintaining these cemeteries. And we agreed that this is something that the Board of Finance can do and is possible. And this is also a project that's important to me.
Yeah.
And it's New Canaan High School student.
Yeah. Perfect. That's great. Thank you for that.
Do you know what the oldest gravestone is in the town?
That is a question I don't know the answer to.
I only asked because I was walking through the cemetery at Parade Hill Road, and I found that a couple of French and Indian War veterans are buried there, and I was surprised to learn that.
There are a lot of especially in Parade Hill, there are a lot of really old really old graves, and that also makes my point. Parade Hill is the worst maintained cemetery in town right now, or at least when I was there this summer. And that makes my point of the ones with the older burials are all but forgotten because there's no one encouraging or funding this.
So maybe thank you for that, by the way. Appreciate the passion and the background and the work that you did in the analysis and bringing it to our attention. So maybe there's 3 questions. One that's a plan. We don't really talk about a plan for this very often or ever. My sense is there's probably 2 funding things. One is a one-time get everything kind of cleaned up, fixed up, and then there'd be an ongoing expense. Have you ever put any thought to what that might cost? Or
haven't done one for if we were to go in and take care of all of them. So Leo's right. So right now the highway department cuts the cemeteries once a year right before Memorial Day. That's where we're at. So that's taken out of our staff budget. Just staff time, salary time. We did get a $5,000 this year. We got a $5,000 neglected cemetery grant. There's actually a grant from the state. I added about $2,600 to that, $2,650 out of our, that was not budgeted out of our accounts, and put out to bid to try to take care of those ones that he's speaking of, to do a spring cleanup, a fall cleanup, and 2 summer mowings. Okay. And that came to it was 9 cemeteries that we were looking at the time. And that came to the $7,650. I had estimated like $1,000 a cemetery per year is what I figured. About $250 for the fall cleanup, $250 for the spring cleanup, and then $500 spread out through a couple of summer mowings, and call that a day. And then that should pretty much keep them at a good stead. We should say. I could look at how much it would be for each cemetery to fix the headstone and go to that.
Whatever stone walls there are, and make it right, which would last 20 years probably, if you got that.
Right now, we're kind of piecemeal it together. So if there's a tree problem, I take
Right.
it out of the tree budget,
Right.
right? If I need to hire an outside contractor to help with something, I take it out of my outside contractor budget, out of administration. I don't even hit the parks department, into the highway department. So we're kind of piecemealing it together on the tune of around $5,000 a year out of outside contractors, and then the tree budget handles the trees. So he is correct. The interesting thing is in 2017, I convened almost everyone that was involved. There was about 12 of us that got together. We just couldn't lift it volunteer basis from the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Conservation Commission, just couldn't do it. So at that point in time, the initiative kind of died because I felt that, we should be doing something more. It's one of the complaints that we get often across the desk. And normally that just triggers a very quick, hit to the cemetery and then come back, but not an overall plan.
Well, you wanted, I first of all, again, thanks. I think your ask is, let's put it in the budget process. And then the answer is sure, but in the budget process, let's have two things. I do think you want to do a one-time, just to get a sense. What would it take around all of them? You may do it over 1 or 2 years, but just what would it take to get them in a condition that's back to, in reasonably good shape? And then you've got the estimate to maintain and bring it to us.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, any questions, thoughts?
I have a question. I'm just trying to understand. I know there's like lots of cemeteries, like all over the place, little ones and stuff.
Right.
So just if someone could define for me, so these are town-owned cemeteries?
There are actually 28. One's in a reservoir, so it doesn't count.
Oh, that'd be hard. Yeah.
So there's 27 in town. Some are privately owned. There are in essence 11 that you can kind of access, 9 that are a little bit closer to the public, and 7 definitive ones that Leo was talking about, whereby they're not necessarily maintained by the resident who lives on the property, things of that nature. So we are technically responsible for any cemetery that is neglected, right? That falls fallow. At that point in time, it actually reverts to the responsibility of the town.
And so we're talking about 7 right now?
We're looking at, I would say we're looking closer to 11 that are more because there's like 3 on Ponus Ridge. There's a couple that Leo might have missed that we take care of that are accessible or viewable by the public.
Right.
One of which that we haven't spoken of is like on Frogtown Road, probably the most difficult one to get to because it's off of Weed Street. And as you turn off Frogtown, it's above the stone wall up above. It's very, very difficult to get to.
Okay.
That's one of the problems that we have is there's just sometimes access. But we're looking at 11, I think would be right now as a good start, because those are the ones that are drawing the most attention, and are the most viewable to the public or viewable by the public, accessible by the public. The others.
And these are obviously ones they're full. There's no interment. These are just kind of historical.
These are historic. Yeah.
Right.
You can't put people in there.
They haven't had an internment in forever. Well, as long as I've been here.
But it's not that you couldn't, because if they're public town cemeteries.
I don't know.
That's a very good question.
No, I do, because don't it?
I mean, this is not
if it's over 200
this
years,
is not Lakeview,
buried.
right?
This is not Lakeview. Lakeview has its own board, has its own funding source. That's correct. We assist Lakeview at certain times for certain things, but no.
Aren't some of them managed by the churches, or is that still our?
They would still be ours. There's some are managed by some are managed by the property owner, the adjacent property owner. The majority of them are that way.
And who owns the land underneath them?
Exactly. It's interesting.
From what I've read, it's the town owns the land underneath at that point in time, but we couldn't necessarily move you can't necessarily desecrate the grave.
Right, but there were a number of graves that were moved to Lakeview of old historic graves, right?
Yes, in the past, that's correct.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'd want
time ago.
I think the suggestion would be get an inventory. Let's see what we're up against dealing with. Find out what it will take for the ones that we can work on or should be working on to get them right, and then maintain them as you think, and bring us a range of what that might look like.
So I have a quick question. You said new burial places are better taken care of than the ones that haven't had a burial recently. So the new burial places mean there's been new bodies buried, right? Who's been taking care of them makes it a lot better than the ones that have not been taken care
of. In general, what I've seen, the ones that even have burials from like the late 20th century, they have better, because they're people, probably relatives or something. I think some of these have reasonable, but there's nothing that from like.
So it's just relatives, volunteers have been taking care of
But
it.
someone who cares, someone who knows someone buried in this, as opposed to like a French and Indian war veteran who.
Right.
I don't
They
think we
can
have.
do that. You take a tiger, they can go in and take care of it, right? Even though it's town land, people can go in and take care.
Yes, interestingly enough, I had a woman last night at the POCD stop me who wants to take care of the Maple Street Cemetery, the one that's adjacent to the View.
Right.
She's been managing that or taking care of it, and she wanted a letter from me saying, "Is it okay for her to do that?" I said, "Absolutely." She had some brush that was piled up to the side that she couldn't physically move.
Sure.
I said, "I'll get my men in there to clean it out. Thank you very much." So there's certain situations like that. That one's not on our list because now it has a caretaker. If it had a caretaker and it's a willing caretaker, that'd be great. Kristen Pace did a fantastic job. Then she moved, and then everything she did just went to fallow again. That's the problem.
So is there a process if someone wants to get buried there? Is there a process the town goes through or no?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that we would allow internments at that time to any of these cemeteries.
Okay.
The only internment would be allowed at Lakeview.
Thinking about this, one of the thoughts I had, I thought we were going to go is we could also make this a public-private partnership. There might be people that might be wanted to donate something, and that could go toward the maintenance and repair. Again, I would put that on the list of things to think about.
That did happen for the one that Kristen.
They need to make it. It has to be easy for people, that you can do it, and we can do it for lots of things in this town. This seems like a pretty good cost.
If I can jump in here,
yeah.
There's also the legal liability of having volunteers cutting grass in rocky cemeteries. If they're to get injured, that's a responsibility of the town as opposed to the DPW guys who have insurance and it's less of a legal liability.
So one of the top areas where they're talking about AI, autonomous lawnmowers, is cemeteries because everything's fixed. So you can program the trees and the headstones and everything. And, I'm not sure the price is there yet, but it will be. It will be.
I wonder if the management of this can't be possibly merge it with the land trust.
Is it considered part of our
open space?
Green open space? Is it?
If public access is permitted
and it's green
and it's open.
Why don't we get to the facts on who owns the land and everything associated? Because there's some you drive by and they're on people's property. You bought the house and it actually has that, and those are the ones that are all mowed and obviously are kept up. So
and then this dot on West Avenue, that one I believe belongs to St. Mark's. Isn't it the St. Mark's Cemetery? So that's
the one on corner, the one on Sunset. I thought that's why I asked.
Yeah.
I don't know if they maintain it or we do, but I thought they owned it.
Yeah. But inventory makes sense and who's on it, who's not.
Let's get the facts.
Yeah.
Let's get the facts.
Tiger, 2 questions. Are any other grants available on an ongoing basis, or is this just a one-time?
That we had gotten a $2,000 neglected cemetery grant, or Tom Statler had, I should say, back in, I think it was 2018. They didn't seem to put that out again, and then this year they put it out. We were able to get Greg Riley was able to get 5, so that which was the maximum allowed. So we had a very nice plan as to how we wanted to maintain, and they awarded us the grant. So it's just 1 year. It doesn't allow for staff. Can't go to staff costs. It has to go to outside contractors or payment for headstone replacement, things of that nature. It cannot go towards offsetting staff costs. So it actually had to be outsourced.
Other countries in Europe go back to the guys over 200 years and ask for donations in order to maintain it, or they can't assure them that it's going to remain there. I'm not sure that anybody's doing that in the United States, but it's doesn't hurt to sometimes ask too.
Victor's going to hunt down the people
from the French and Indian War. Victor's got the French and Indian.
Yeah, we can try.
Yeah, you don't find one under a parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else?
No.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah,
we'll put it in the budget process.
Community
Richard,
people from the have come speak.
Oh, Deanna, did you want to say something? Someone had her hand up. I'm not sure who it was. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I probably should use the mic so the people on the all nine people on TV can hear you. Yeah, slide that one over. Perfect.
I'm Danielle Edwards. I'm a member of the local chapter of the DAR, and I'm here in support with several other members of the chapter of Leo's application. We're so proud of him. We think he's shaping up to be a really great American, and we're so impressed by the work that he's doing. The DAR was founded by a congressional charter in 1890, and our local chapter here in New Canaan is one of the oldest in the country. It was started in 1894, and it's named after the Carter family that built a house in the 1700s, I believe, on what is now Carter Street. So there's a lot of history there. We have a very active chapter, one of the most active in Connecticut, certainly one of the most active in the country. We have about 150 members ranging in age from their 20s through their 90s. And so it's a generational organization, and we do a lot of work with civics. Our high school students receive constitutions from the organization. We do food drives, fundraisers, a lot of historical preservation, and our members about twice a year also do cleanups of graveyards here in New Canaan. And Kristen Pace was an active member of our chapter until she moved. And she and her daughters, as many people here probably know, spent about 2 years doing hard work with their rakes and shovels on the Canoe Hill graveyard. We all were so impressed by the work that was done there because of the terrible condition it was in when it started and the condition that it's in now. For example, the stairs going up to the graveyard had completely eroded, and so they had to be rebuilt. It was completely unsafe to even try to enter the graveyard. Over hundreds of years, massive gravestones had broken into pieces and been shifted by tree roots and by storms. Often, further than you could ever think, a giant heavy piece of stone could be moved. And they pieced them back together. They dug them out of the ground. Some of the gravestones were so heavy that a crane was required to be brought in to move them. There was a huge amount of tree work that had to be done to remove trees that had fallen down, trees that were in the process of falling down. And she and her daughters got it all started. They also mapped out all of the known graves that they could identify at that graveyard. The hope is that at some time we can get a QR code set up there so that people can walk through the graveyard. We have some really amazing historic residents of New Canaan that are buried there, patriots, people who supported the Revolutionary War. In that graveyard is also a back corner where residents of color were buried. They were relegated to the back corner of the graveyard. And it's my understanding that the last living slave who was born in Africa here in Connecticut is buried in that graveyard. And those people were not honored as they should have been during their lifetime, but we can honor them in death by preserving this graveyard and other graveyards like it. And we can honor our patriots who fought for our freedom who are buried there by preserving this graveyard. And that's why it's so important to us to do this work. That's why we appreciate the attention of this board so much. It's our understanding also that the town hired a grant writer about a year ago, and there are countless grants available for preservation of graveyards, restoration of graveyards where veterans are buried. And so it might be, since there was some discussion of grants, it might be worth asking the town's grant writer to look into that. And anyway, we just want to thank Leo for the work he's doing, and we're here to support him however we may.
Excellent.
And also
Thank you. And I think they got one. You said they got a $5,000.
We got it,
Yeah.
right, a neglected
Yeah.
cemetery grant,
Yeah.
but if there's
Good.
others, we'd like
Yeah,
to know.
sure. Thank you. No, thanks for that. Great. Okay, we'll put it in the process. Mission accomplished. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Great presentation. Thanks for the update. And there's one of those cemeteries on Carter Street.
Yes.
Can't keep track of where
Would the Carters be there? Would that person be?
Yeah, they
be
are.
there?
They're
That's where they bear. So I mean, that makes sense. So interesting.
say without verifying that. I mean, it would certainly make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't Carter Street at the time. I think it was called the Clapboard neighborhood or the Clapboard area. And the town was built, I think, in 1790, the house was, I think, built in 1794. It's just really great.
Excellent.
It's right at the big turn.
Yeah,
on Carter Street.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Josh. And you have to follow that one. It's tough.
See if they can work in a reference to the French Indian War.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's worth $5. I mean, you got to give them some extra. Before they start, I think everybody knows This is the award-winning
Yes.
Ann Kelly Lance.
Oh, yes.
Does everyone know? Does everybody know?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very
Yeah,
good.
thank
They
you.
they got the award, the Excellence in Finance Reporting. I'm going to read this because I was so impressed by it. I actually did a little homework on it. So,
Thank you.
Excellence in Finance Reporting for the Government Finance Officers Association of the U.S. and Canada, which I found interesting. You get the award for your high standards, your full disclosure, and the communication, a clear communication of the town's financial story. And I know it sounds boring, but if you haven't read the audit, if you haven't read the financial report that's produced every year, it's very well done. And so, anyway, it's the highest recognition for the role that you've got. That's great news. Congratulations. She's the only one in the entire United States that got this award. That part might not be true. That part might not be true, but
Fake news.
anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know that's a long way when you think that when Kevin, remember when you started as first selectman, how deplorable the reporting was, and all the work that was done, you know, with
the management letters,
old systems and
letters, and all the leadership, you know, Kevin gave a board, you know, supporting that. It's been a long,
well done,
and fruitful journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's all been the CFOs, our succession of CFOs.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yep.
And Josh.
I get my own award
What'd you get?
for the budget distinction.
Yes.
Oh.
Budget distinction.
Of course,
award.
for the budget book. There's the corresponding one each year.
Of course.
You don't read the budget?
I
book?
do. I read it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course I read it. Right in the front. You're right. All right. We're having champagne next month.
Yeah.
All right. Very well done. So we have a couple of topics. We had asked for the analysis on the general fund contributions and just the historical story. We budget some, we use some, we don't use some, we add, we delete, and so forth. So you've put together a little analysis. You want to walk us through that?
I did, sure. I just realized the one you had is slightly updated than that. Hang on, maybe I have the updated one. But either way, in front of you, this is kind of just a carried forward version of what we had last year. Fiscal year all the way on the left, the adopted drawdown in under the adopted column. If there were any appropriations, that's listed in the revised column, and what the actual drawdown was of the fund balance. So that's to say the 1.2 million on your pages in front of you is what is actually being drawn down or expected to be drawn down for FY23.
I see 1.3.
1.3.
Oh, yeah, we actually just did another entry.
I did
so reduced
update it. It should be 1.2 on your printed, on the things.
Yeah,
printed in front of you.
1.27.
Yeah, it just came down again.
Yeah.
So let me show, just to use an example, going back to 2017, just to pick a date. 2,063,000 was what? That was what we approved
In the budget.
in the budget?
That was initial approval, right?
Yep.
Just is that,
Yeah,
just
that,
ask
so
him.
that would be yes. What
Okay, it was
budgeted.
2 million. Then Michael was nervous and he had asked us to add $63.
Yeah, that's 60.
Then what's revised mean?
Revised means if there was 800,000 in special appropriations.
Okay, so we thought we, and then what's the 262,000 mean?
The fund balance drew down.
So we thought we draw down 2 million and we
Yes.
drew down 260,000.
Yes.
So you roll forward to the next year, we thought we'd draw down 3 million,
Well, no, it's the revised one we should go by. We
or
thought we-
3.2 million, of course, and we did draw down 2.2.
Correct.
Okay. So as you follow that down, and so here you're saying what happened in 21?
21, right. So we did not draw down. That's
The inverse.
inverse.
We added,
Went up,
we
yes.
we put in 5 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was just COVID.
COVID.
We didn't
COVID.
spend money. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So you can, the last 2 years are just really interesting. So, you know, the revised in the fiscal FY22, 5.260 million. We planned for, and we actually used 1.1. I think that's really the question we're always getting at. What we do put in a big number there, and then we end up using very little because we run the surpluses in the revenue and run the surpluses on the expense side. And that really, you don't know that's going to happen. And that's how that gets up. And this is the expectation this year is 1.2.
Wait, when you say this year, the year that's going to end in June?
No, this was the year that just ended. So they made some adjustments. This is the year that ended in June.
FY20.
Yeah, this is we're on 24 now.
Okay.
It's the year being audited currently.
FY24, we don't know.
Projecting because it's not finalized. Is that why? Okay.
Yeah.
So we always use that as kind of a plug, or how we derive what the mill rate's going to be, right? Right. And in doing that, since we are budgeting at 98.5%, we know that we're going to get the 1.5% back, right? So, but I think this is really interesting. With the exception of 21,
we always use a little.
We use 1.5 million, but that's important because we have to, when you're going into the budget, if we say we're going to use 5 million, but historically we don't, that gives us comfort in how our general fund stays.
But we are still drawing it down.
Yeah, if you keep using it, we'll run it down. It's obviously something to watch. That's why we asked for this. Yeah.
Judy, you might remember this. When did we do in 14 to get to $8 million?
I wasn't here. I don't know.
Not the only person who was here was Judy. It's what I'm asking.
No, actually, well, let me think. Yeah,
I was here.
I'm trying to remember.
I think 15,
that's my first year answer.
15 was my first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cut that back. Nice job.
Was that Saks?
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, for a while, do you remember we were getting a little aggressive in bonding smaller project things?
A
you know,
lot of smaller things in those years.
Quickly amortizing them, but we did budget those. This is before you kept.
It might have been
but
Saks.
they added up quickly.
Yeah, and then we just got more discipline.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because of the timing. If it was a Saks overrun.
Saks did not overrun.
Well, it changed.
It changed, but in terms of where we budgeted.
Like that.
Yes, it was not overrun.
You say potato.
Yeah.
As the
We say
police department,
overrun.
you know, when you work on something for a number of years, it changes.
And that money had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. All right.
True of the high school project too. I mean, it went on forever. Yeah.
Caution here, though. We have to watch the drawdown.
Sure.
You know, we want to have, call it, you know, in the 20 million range now. And we've got to be careful. We're in the, you know, 17, 18, I think you told me today, or right now, thereabouts.
Unencumbered.
So,
but
okay.
what's the whole number with encumbered? What's the unencumbered? Is the unencumbered 17 million? And then we have the encumbered amount?
Unencumbered is 18.
Unencumbered is about 18, close to 19.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So we have, you know, we were higher before. So we are using our cash.
Yep.
Yeah. So we got to, because, you know, using our cash has been helping us keep the mill rate down. So it's going to, you know, we're not going to have that flexibility in the same way going forward.
Okay. Anything else on that? Just thought it was a good request to have a quick check on that. Okay. You want to go through the update? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. What you have in front of you is the October 31st year-to-date financials. This marks the 1/3 way through the year. And the overall revenue is at 53.3%, up 1.5 million from last month, and outpacing last year by 2%, percentage to percentage. Tax collections are at 55%, up 500,000 from last month, and also outpacing last year's budget by 2%. Building permits and conveyance fees are lagging behind last year by 45,000 and 185,000. You know, at about 1/3 of the way through the year, we're seeing about 30% to 40% of what we had budgeted. So it's not too far off of what we were pacing, but it's still behind from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Parking is at 18.5% or 333,000, lagging from last year. This is mainly due to the extension that was granted for permit holders that have a renewal date that ends in November, I believe, instead of in September. So many of those permit holders haven't actually renewed those permits yet. So we're hoping that'll just correct itself and catch up as we go into December. And
we just wrote the check. So yeah.
You did. Okay. I'll add that to this.
Thank you.
And in addition to this, and I know another 40,000 that was booked actually today for parking. So hopefully it's on pace, and we'll kind of see as we go. Interest on investments is 55% of what was budgeted. That got added to the top now, as you can see, at about 500,000, outperforming last year by 200,000. So we're obviously
so that's on track at 5, call it 500. So easy 1.5 million, if not 2. Easy 1.5 million, not 2. Okay. So that's going to be a beat. That's important.
Other revenue is at 28% of what was budgeted and 445-ish over last year. That's due to also the unrealized gain and losses is about 300,000, and the municipal revenue sharing is at 233,000. Any questions on revenue? Good. On the expense side of things, it's 24.5%. Sorry, yep. There we are, 24.5-ish%. Last year was 3% more, so we're outpacing last year, in terms of spending less than we were last year, percentage-wise. But other than that, expected on target. Any questions?
Why do you think we're spending 3% less?
That's a good
Is it
question.
just late billing, or is it something?
I don't know if it's late billing.
I'm sorry, was it overall?
Overall, yeah.
Board of Ed payroll.
Yeah,
We just need to get Board of Ed payroll.
It might be just a payroll that.
It's a timing issue on getting the
It's
payroll.
too much. It's too low. There must be a true up there somewhere.
$5-6 million in Board of Ed payroll, so that would bring it in.
Okay, that makes sense.
To be in place. And the only change we possibly could see that coming from the board again would be adding the SROs sometime mid next year.
Great. Great.
Okay.
Yep.
Any watch outs? Anything to think about? Any concerns that you see? Trends are
No.
Trends are good. Okay. Any questions, team? Okay.
One question: how's this whole rec department kind of fulfilling, getting their own budget going?
It's good. I think it's a learning process to make sure there's a lot of making sure that finance and recreation are like working as a team to kind of come up with something that works for both of us. It's something new for them and new for us. So we're developing a lot. I'm actually meeting with Zach tomorrow at the rec department to kind of put together a spreadsheet that I think will work well for us. I think for them, it's working well. I think we're just getting it on our finance side, on our budget side. So it's just like secondhand nature, kind of easy, able to get them new programs when they want. But I think it's working well.
It is working well. They are making money on their programs per se because they have such a demand.
Right.
And now that they're able to open those extra programs, they're filling up right away.
Right.
So
so with this new methodology, how much greater of a budget do they have because they generating this revenue? How much more are they?
It's a good question.
Yeah. We'd love to next
how
time.
much they bring it in?
Yeah, because they generate more revenue, they can spend more and do more programs, right? So how much is that they can do over and above? We had not done this program, they would have had a flat budget and they couldn't go over it. So how much more?
Oh, we're running P&Ls on the different programs that they've run and making sure their payroll's going into the right. That's that learning curve of making sure. So we can run a P&L on that.
Yeah, just curious, like how much more?
So that, you know,
budget, how much more programs they can spend because of this and all that. How much more value?
What they do is when they have another program that they want to implement, or they just come up with the list of how many they can serve, the dollar amount, and then they build their budget on that. So they'll say, this is how much I'm bringing in and our costs.
So that's what I'm saying. How much is that?
How many more? Okay. Yep.
I wonder how many more, like how much more expenditures are they been able to spend because they're bringing in more revenue?
Gotcha.
How many more people have in this survey?
People and dollars.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if you couldn't do this, like let's say they spend this much, but there's like 20-30% more expense they could do because they're bringing in 40% more revenue.
Sure.
So be just curious.
Okay. I can find that out. Yeah.
Great.
Anything else? Okay. Do you want to do line item transfers?
Yeah.
And they want them to come up for the Motorola conversation?
Yeah, they can come up. There's one to approve, but right in front of you, there's 24,694 just to review. Various administrative transfers, nothing really out of the ordinary.
Any questions on the reviews? What are there, 5 or 6 of here?
There's a handful.
Yeah,
You'll see kind of some consistency of some of those review ones. We're realigning and looking at the different expenditures to get the same expenditures in the same line items in all the departments.
Mm-hmm.
So we're changing them. So the departments are changing where you'll see a lot of transfers where they're taking it where it was and making it consistent across the board as we move forward.
Okay, I think we want to talk about our friends at Motorola.
friends is, I don't know if that's the word I would use, but Josh, do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, sir. Right.
So this is going to be the approval item, right?
Yep.
There's a story.
Right.
Because you found money and you're moving things around, but you've got a challenge.
Yeah. Part of it that isn't funded, which is
right,
what the hope
exactly.
is. So, backstory, tri-band radios, both of us, Albie, the chief and I, have them in our capital budgets. The price from when we got our numbers in October have escalated from Motorola substantially. And also the fire department was declined a AFG, or System for Firefighters grant, which was part of, and I don't want to speak for you about that part of it. That was part of your budget factoring.
Right, originally I put in for the AFG grant for the entire package, and we weren't awarded that. So that was the original request in the capital budget for 2 years. It's the 10% match that grant would have been. So now, what we're asking for is the minimum the minimum radios that we need for our members that are responding out of town for mutual aid calls.
So of course the keyboard is no longer working. Come on, do things. So I'm short $5,000. Albie is short $47,500 to purchase 8 units. However, I like to come with solutions, which is to say that in partnership with the highway department and some great work by our mechanics and team down there, the fuel trailer project, which originally was budgeted for $31,500 to buy one very large trailer, which we knew would require some special licensing and things. The team, we met initially, as I like to do with any project, and reevaluated just to make sure we're on the right path. We found a much cheaper solution, which basically $26,900 of that project will be unspent by the fact that we found a better way to do it in partnership between the departments. So my recommendation is with the remainder that isn't spent within my capital to reallocate 5 so that I can purchase the radios that I need, and then the bulk of it should go to, it's again the same mission, to Albie for his radios, which leaves you with 26,000 that is unfunded to get the 8 total radios.
Total radios for fire.
Okay.
Why weren't you awarded the grant?
Yeah, what happened?
They don't really give you a reason. I couldn't speculate if we just didn't have enough. Our funding was there, townwide, and they just didn't recognize us as having the financial need for the radios.
Yeah, who is the grantor?
I would have been FEMA, federal government.
Maybe when you put 06840 in the form.
We've gotten them before.
I know we have.
So I what's changed? I mean, is it just we've gotten them a few times?
Right, a little less money.
Grant. Did you guys put in the grant? Did we have Greg do it? How was the process?
That one, I did that one. And the one for this year doesn't look like we're getting approved either. That was done with Greg. So I just think it's the financial side. We get good feedback on the writing, but why the peer review that we didn't make the top of the list, I couldn't answer that. They won't give you that answer.
Is it worth doing it again?
For the effort, for 90% funding, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll, if it's available to us.
You get surprised. You think it's because your zip code, and then every now and then, like Goris Pavilion got it. Nobody thought we were getting that, and boom, we did. So you just have to keep plugging.
We will, definitely. We will. It doesn't hurt. Greg doesn't mind. I don't mind. So it's just getting the numbers together and putting the need.
So we need a motion to approve the 26,500, right? Ann?
Yes. So
any other questions before we get? Did you have a question? Yeah. Anybody? Calm? Bob? All good? Okay. Okay. Motion to approve.
Second.
Michael, Judy, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. So move. Thanks. And thanks for the scrambling, trying to put it together and find some offsets. That was great.
We appreciate it. This was the easy part of it.
And a huge thank you to the highway team, Mosey and Tiani and all of them for finding way better solutions and cheaper.
Right.
That
That's great. Good. That's good teamwork. Really good teamwork. Good.
We still have to deal with Motorola.
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. And John, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. And December, are we doing an audit, a review of the audit or an update on the audit? Okay, we'll have that on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay. And just before we adjourn, I think it's known, I'm not sure how well known. Not only is this guy leaving, not only is Amy leaving, but Judy is stepping down from the Board of Finance. And so I can't thank you enough. You're unbelievable. You know, this is the encyclopedia of town finance, right? So, and everyone's been through it. You all of a sudden, you get a question from Judy and you're like, shoot, did not think of that. And that's a really good, who remembers these things? And so anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You've been amazing. And you keep us all honest with the notes, which is great. And so I'm losing three really senior members here. So is it personal? Maybe I just dawned on me.
You're not really losing Amy.
Well,
she's
I know, but this is a more fun. She's changing roles, but in any event, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so I can't thank you enough. You've been amazing, absolutely amazing. Yep. Why you did it, I have no idea. But anyway. Okay. Sure, of course.
It has been an honor and privilege, a wonderful experience to serve the town over so many years. I have always believed in public service and giving back to our community. In return, it broadens your reach across the entire community. You make some of your closest lifelong friends, people who you may develop very deep relationships with as you learn how they think on issues that really matter. As one of the few people who prefer night meetings, it has worked for me well. With the change of leadership, I believe it is the right time for me to move on. I want to thank the community for all their support, to my colleagues on the Board of Finance and our chairman, Todd Lavieri. I know you will strive to do the best for New Canaan. You serve with integrity and always with due diligence. You bring passion, intellect, and hard work to the debate. I want to welcome Deanna Carlson and wish her well as our new first selectman. I also want to thank the employees who are the glue that holds the town hall together. I have watched them grow, mature, and become the best in their respective fields. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, a motion to adjourn, which you have to make.
I will so.
All right, and we could have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Amy. All right, all in favor? Opposed? None. So moved. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Good night. Good night, Bob. Good night.